Piana.
Yes,
That's
sir.
it. That's our intro. That's
The man,
that's
the
it.
myth, the legend. Rest in peace, Rich Piana. That's what we'll be talking about today. Good old Rich.
Yep. We're just going to be taking a deep dive into, some of his teachings, some of the things that he did, some of the crazy shit that he took, and just doing an overall just rundown of one of the natty gods. I'm kidding, he's not natty. We were just joking about that.
Yeah. He for those that don't know, look him up on YouTube. He was way ahead of his time. First of all, he was way ahead of his time. We need him now more than we needed him 7 years ago, before he passed away. But he was a bodybuilder, businessman, social media influencer, stuff like that. I don't think he ever made pro. I'm pretty sure he only competed in the NPC. And he talked about why that is. And he was talking about how he realized the harder he worked, the more he went towards bodybuilding, the more he realized that the guys around him were pushing it way harder than he was, and they're borderline killing themselves. Which is a lot of the case true. It's just all a matter of perspective. And to Rich, even with all of his steroid usage and all of that, there are a lot of compounds that bodybuilders use that he didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. One of them, especially in the early 2000s, a big one was insulin. Hard diuretics were also big back then. So he saw these guys using all of that stuff to get ready for these shows, and he just was like, this ain't for me. And on top of that, another thing that he talked about that he didn't like was that he would ask the judge, typically after shows, you ask the judges what you could have improved upon. And he said he didn't like that aspect because he wanted to look the way he wanted to look. Why would he look a different way? Why would he look a way that somebody else wanted him to look? If they said, "Oh, you need smaller arms," but he wanted bigger arms, why would he sacrifice the way he wanted to look? So that's another reason why he got out of bodybuilding. But yeah, he never made it pro, unfortunately. Even though I think that he had a pro level physique prior to other things you're going to be talking about later on. But yeah, I think he deserved pro.
Yeah, the only stuff that I could find was his Mr. California stuff that he won both as a teen and as an adult. So I mean that's pretty cool. But yeah, nothing higher than that.
Yeah, it says there's NPC competitions in 2003 and 2009, so he probably didn't place that well. But Mr. California teen, and in 1989 he won, and so I guess he won. I want to see. Maybe I could find out. It might be online. To see if I could find, because you could look by athletes.
Yeah.
So
Can you imagine though that think about you going to the Excalibur and just out of nowhere, obviously it was different back when he was when Rich Piana was bodybuilding, but can you imagine on the amateur style you just go to the Excalibur and you're doing your thing, and then Rich Piana is there with his physique?
Yeah, that'd be wild. I'd love that, but too late now. But I do wish I got to meet Rich Piana, but I never got to. Search competitor. There it is. Okay. Let me see. Maybe not. It might not be documented online. Yeah, I can't find it. Maybe it's Richard. It might be Richard.
Yeah, whatever his
Not.
true name is.
Yeah, it's probably Richard. Which is weird to think Richard Piana. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, I can't find it. So it says online, at least on his Wikipedia page, that he supposedly won the Mr. Teen California in 1989, Mr. California in 1998, and some NPC competitions in 2003 and 2009. But that's all it really says. It doesn't say what competitions in 2003 and 2009. It just says that he did. I guess it says pro debut was Mr. California 98, but that don't make sense. because NPC doesn't run professional competitions. But I don't know. Anyways, um, besides the point, he wasn't. He had a bodybuilder's physique and a men's open bodybuilder's physique at that. His legs could have used more size back then, but ultimately he had a really solid upper body. And then he got into the influencing side of things, and that's where supposed synthol got involved,
Well,
other
that's what I was
hard
gonna say too.
compounds.
Like
Mhm.
he wasn't touching stuff, but then was throwing synthol in, and synthol is not as common as some of the other harsher compounds that people take.
Well, synthol is very, very dangerous because um, synthol itself is an oil that you inject into your muscles that hardens and enlarges them in size. And it can be very dangerous when you get to the extreme side of things, and they start to leak. Those rock substances start to leak and start damaging your overall muscle tissue. Um,
Yeah,
there's those guys with the extreme sized arms and traps and shit like that in other countries. There's a guy with giant pecs too. It's all synthol based, and um, if they were to burst, I don't think that would be very healthy at all. I think you'd probably die from it. I don't know how, but I feel like there's no way that you can just a bunch of oil can just get seeped into your body that's been sitting there for 10 years. That's going to be good for you.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, you got to be careful of that stuff. He denies using synthol, but it's kind of obvious because his triceps were just way too rounded. His triceps just didn't make any sense, and his biceps just didn't make any sense. Like his arms didn't match up with what his physique used to be when he was competing, and then it also just motive too. He had the motive to look freaky.
yeah. I mean, part of his like
Excuse me.
thing when you
Yeah,
like look at like think about anybody who's getting into like serious weightlifting or anything, and sees all the different people. So obviously there's like Ronnie and Jay and like the big Mr. Olympia winners, but then you see like the guys who didn't win and who make a lot more content, and he just looks so much bigger than any other person making that made content. So like you're
yeah,
inclined to watch him. So you're right, like he has every reason to look like abnormally large.
yeah. He did look wild with his physique. And he was just when he would walk around, like that was his. I think that was one of his biggest things. Was even like making sure to look good in the gym. It was more so about looking crazy with like clothes on, just in public. I think that was his biggest thing.
Well, that's the thing that us bodybuilders prefer over powerlifters. Like powerlifters want to look good in the gym with the amount of weight they push and move and whatnot, and bodybuilders just want to we like look good like everywhere. Like that's the
Yeah,
big difference.
yeah. We want to. The goal is to look big and good with clothes on, with a t-shirt on. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, that guy fucking lifts. That guy fucks too. You could tell he fucks. But yeah, it's so. I mean, that was his biggest thing. I think was just making sure that he looked absolutely insane with clothes on and all that shit. And hear videos of him walking around and whatnot, and he'd take videos of people's reactions to him and shit because it's not every day that you see someone like Rich Piana walking on a sidewalk. And he also lived in California too, like in LA. So like you'd see like people shocked on like fucking Rodeo, you know, like Rodeo Street, whatever it is, like just like shopping in fucking Gucci or something. Just massive motherfucker that could barely put on like even the purse loops don't even fit around his damn arms. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's not something people saw a lot, but that's part of what made him big. And another reason that he got big, social media wise, was because I mean he had some small uh, roles in TV and stuff like that, but really a big thing that he got big from was just his openness about steroid use. He was like the first one really to be like very transparent about what he takes and what it does to him and what not to do and like why you shouldn't take it, stuff like that. So pretty wild that he was like the first one to kind of pioneer that movement, and that's kind of what we're part of now too. Like my openness is a big portion of it is influenced because of Rich Piana, And I still appreciate all of his openness about his steroid use. So I want to return that, you know, and carry that on with my life and live my life that way where I am open about it. It only helps
Yeah.
really at the end of the day.
I mean, one of the things that we really have talked about in the past is like, what do you have to gain from withholding it? Like, obviously, like people who, like, for example, Liver King. I know we try not to talk about him too much, but he had every reason why trying to hide it because he's selling all these different like supplements and things, and he claims that is the only reason.
Yeah.
So people who sell things like that, I can understand the motive there. I don't agree with it, but I can understand the motive. But people who are just in like bodybuilding and completely like say they are natural, that makes no sense because that is truly misleading because they're not trying to sell anything. They're just trying to bring a package to the show and win. And on social media, they claim natural. That doesn't make any sense there.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand not wanting to talk about it at all, which is
Yeah,
fair.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but if you claim natural and you're not, that can be honestly the other way around. It can be dangerous because one, you're kind of giving false hope and you're kind of lying. Obviously, you're lying because you're not natural. Sorry. Oh, why yawn when I talk? It's fucking annoying. Um, so you're giving false hope. You're setting unrealistic expectations for individuals that want to look the way you want to the way you look. Um, I think for me, I think it's better to not talk about it than to just claim natural when you're not. But at the same time, I think when you don't talk about it, I think it can also be a problem too. A big example of that is Dwayne Johnson.
I was about to
He
bring him up.
has, yeah, he has requirements for interviews where he they cannot bring up steroid use or anything like that. He will not talk about it, which I understand coming from his platform, but at the same time, like there's no snowball in hell's chance that Rich Piana or not Rich Piana, Dwayne Johnson is natural. There's no shot, especially with him playing Maui coming up in the live action Moana. He is going to be on everything under the fucking sun to put on size and lose fat. Like he's
They're
going
gonna
to,
make a live action. I didn't know
yeah, they're
that.
making a live action and he's playing Moana or no, he's imagine to play
Maui.
Moana.
Yeah.
He's playing
I'm on a
Maui.
true cut. I'm on a true cut. Let's see how small I can get.
Got a wig on me, bitch. Yeah, no, he's
Not just
playing.
weight. I want to lose height.
I want to lose everything. I want to become a woman. Yeah, he's gonna be playing Maui, so he'll be playing
Google
himself,
search.
kind of.
Google search. Does estrogen lower height?
How to lower height with steroids. Remove kneecaps. Okay, done. Just cuts it off. Done.
Well, it's like the Family Guy thing with Peter. I went into the doctors and I said I want to make my dick bigger. That I asked the wrong question. He comes out with no legs.
Yeah, he goes, I went it down to my knees, and he walks out and he goes, they brought up my knees. But his legs like 2 inches long. They brought up my
such
knees.
such a dumb shtick.
I love it. It's the dumber the better. But yeah, so he's playing Maui, and there's just no way in hell he's not on a ton of compounds. And you can't tell me with a straight face that a dude that has like a few $100,000 gym that travels with him wherever he
Yeah.
goes is not on steroids. There's no way. Like this dude's
Can you
constantly
imagine though?
training.
Can you imagine though, like obviously like wherever you go for acting, there's generally a lot of space because, acting like departments and places they build like fake cities and stuff where people
Yeah.
like film everything in their space. But his regular travel, can you imagine like not how much it costs to ship that gym, but the amount he spends on rent on like one day renting land to put that gym down
Yeah.
somewhere?
I don't know how that aspect works because he has like a tent thing that he puts up, right?
It's
And he has
massive.
like, yeah, he has that like team. He has like a team of like 5 or 6 guys that like takes everything apart, puts it back together wherever he's filming. But I wonder how that would work, like the land aspect of things. That might be a requirement of working with him. Like you need to supply me the land to build my gym on. temporarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's got the money for it, I'd do it too if I could. But
Yep.
I just want a gym like that in one spot. I want half a gym like that in just one spot. That's all I
Yeah.
want. I don't need it traveling with me. I just need it at home in my garage. That's what I want.
Yeah. The home gym
But
is the goal.
oh, of course. But yeah, so back to Rich. He was very open about it. He talked about his steroids uses through, HGH, which is human growth hormone. He talked about testosterone a lot. As far as like the actual compounds he talks about, those are really the only ones I can think of. I know he was pretty open about his DECA usage, which is basically he talked about how he uses tests and DECA. DECA can be used on its own as TRT. It's derived from testosterone, but if you use it in conjunction, it's a great size compounder, which is what he started at 18, apparently, was test and DECA. And at the time, mid to late 80s, I mean, there wasn't crazy compounds on the market at the time in comparison to now. So DECA, D-ball, test, nandrolone, really, which I think is actually just D-ball, but yeah, so decadurable and testosterone are really just his main compounds. Obviously, he needs to take like things like aromatase inhibitors in order to help with gyno, all of that. And the GH wasn't even really necessarily, he talked about it in videos, it wasn't really necessarily for muscle gains and all of that, which GH is, the way GH works is very, very almost backwards to how other compounds work. But the reason he took GH was because it made him feel better, helped his hair grow, stuff like that, which is what GH will do. GH you can get, I don't know if you can do it now, but I know at one point, I'd have to look into it. I know at one point you can get prescribed GH. And it's a great compound for people on the older side. I think more for him, it was because of his damage that he's done to his body through steroid usage that kind of called for GH as a remedy for the situation. But if you're on the older side, GH can literally change your life. Just like testosterone can. If you're low test, if you get on TRT, it will change your life. So he used GH very expensively in order to feel better throughout the day. And essentially what he would do, which from my understanding, he was almost Liver King level as far as spending goes, because he had all the money to spend on it. But he would do, I believe it was, so he said he was sometimes getting it for free, the GH, but typically it would cost him about $8,000 a month, roughly $2,000 a week, in order to pin, I believe. So he would pin once a week, or really you want to pin every day, but he was taking 20 IUs per day of Serostin, which is a synthetic version of it, which is a shit ton. 20 IUs a day on the reg is a fucking shit ton. So he was probably, I mean, if that's what he's saying, 20 IUs per day, he's probably pinning per day, but people also calculate per week and stuff like that. You could say, if you're on 700 milligrams of test, you could say you're on 100 milligrams a day of test, which even though you're not pinning 100 milligrams a day of test, you could just say that. So
It's just easier
this
for
is all just,
calculating.
yeah, it all just depends on how you look at it. If you talk in milliliters, you're a fucking idiot, because milliliters don't mean shit, but milligrams, absolutely. Especially, I mean, as long as you got pure shit, but that's all that matters.
I measure in cups. 1 cup of
Oh God, how many cups a day of testosterone do you take? We're gonna get to that point where it's like, the compounds are gonna be so ridiculous. You're like, how many cups of Tren do you take in a day? I take 3. And they're like basically just like
I just
beef
drink it.
jerky. Yeah, they're
I
just like
just drink
shriveled
it.
up fucking. Oh God, it probably tastes terrible too, because it's my shit's suspended in MCT oil, so it probably tastes terrible. But yeah, so that was Rich's kind of beginning, and he really spread a positive message, I think, and talked about how you shouldn't do what he does, and he does it because that's what he does. That's
Yeah, I mean,
that's really it.
everybody who does or who works out and like gets their body to that level and tells people not to do the things they're doing. I mean, most of us have pretty bad body dysmorphia, like, and
Hmm.
I'm willing to bet dimes on the dozen he always felt like he had small arms because the amount of time and like you
Oh
see
yeah,
how disproportionate his arms. I mean, not I'm going to say disproportionate. It's not taking away from him at all, but he
yeah.
definitely has bigger arms than anything else, and like for sure that's a factor or a result from having people who not people sorry a factor of having body dysmorphia against his arms. He feels like his arms are always small.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just like you said, that's just body dysmorphia 101, which is unfortunate. But I wonder how I gotta look up his arm size. I don't remember what they were at. Um,
I'm
but
going to
I
take a
mean,
guess at 26. That's my guess.
23 and a half actually.
Wow,
But I think
okay.
just proportionately they look enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, 24-inch arms is like Ronnie Coleman, I think, had 24-inch arms,
Yep.
something like that. But I think it was more because Rich doesn't have much of a peak when he's flexing his arms, where because they're just so massive, he doesn't have much of a peak. Where with like someone like Ronnie Coleman, he has crazy bicep peak. So that will definitely play a role. And again,
Yeah.
size as well. I don't remember exactly his height. Let me see if it says it right here. Oh, he's 6 foot. What the fuck? I don't know. Anyways, that's what it says online. I don't know if that's true or not. But he was also known for his, as far as his arms go, he was also known for his 8-hour arm workout. So he would do
Hey
an
guys,
8-hour arm workout.
just came up with my new leg day. Hey guys, so this is essentially an 8-hour arm workout.
I love those memes where you skip out on leg day for something else. It's like when you're
Yeah.
about to hit legs, but then you end up on the bench press.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, so he did an 8-hour arm workout. I don't know how often he did it. Supposedly that was his arm routine, I guess. But what he would do is he'd split up the workout into 16 30-minute workouts, and he'd have essentially alternating workouts that he would do. So he would do for 30 minutes, he would do 4 sets of 10 of skull crushers and 4 sets of 10 of barbell curls. And then the next 30 minutes, he would do 4 sets of 15 for single arm dumbbell extensions. And then workout, the second movement would be 4 sets of 15 of barbell dumbbell hammer curls. So hammer curls and barbell curls. It says barbell dumbbell hammer curls. I don't know what the fuck that is.
I'm
I
wondering
don't know
if
if it's a
that's like
barbell or
with an easy
dumbbell.
bar, like a warped
But
easy bar maybe to try and get
for hammer
the
curls, I mean there are
because the
like
hammer curls you
there
need the straight up grip. So,
yeah, there are barbells. I wouldn't really call them barbells, but they're basically just like these bars that you can put weights on each end, and they allow you to do hammer curls, um,
yeah.
and like close grip bench and shit. So maybe that's what they're talking about. I'm not sure, but either way, he's doing a skull crusher and an extension, and then he's doing a barbell curl and a hammer curl. So, oh, excuse me. So the way he would do this is he would have, I believe it was a large meal about an hour and a half prior to training. So you have about an hour and a half for it to digest. Then after every 30-minute workout, he would have a protein shake, which typically protein shakes for one scoop is like 25 grams of protein, something like that. So we're talking like 800 grams of protein by the time you're done your actual arm day. And that's just the protein shakes alone. He would have a meal beforehand and he would have a big meal afterwards. The guy who's talking about it, who tested it on himself, he did um, large pizza, chicken chips, milkshake, and a protein dessert, and then 2 days off from the gym
Yeah, you
and
definitely need
sleeping 12 to
rest.
14 hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not something you just can keep doing. Like if you can't like even
Every
train
week.
for a couple days, yeah,
Every
that's your
Friday and then
ending.
I take the weekend off.
Yeah, the weekend off, eat whatever you want, all that just because you did two movements for biceps, two movements for triceps for 8 straight hours on Friday.
But
And who
wasn't
has the fucking time for that too?
wasn't Rich's claim that it added an inch, like just on that workout alone, to your biceps? I
I
feel
think
like that
from
was
like a pump or something.
yeah. Well, no,
So
no.
he
I feel like
said,
someone did it and then measured like days afterwards. But
well, this
yeah,
guy said that he measured the day after and he gained half an inch on his arms,
yeah.
supposedly.
I think that's what it is.
As
So
far
every
as
week I can gain half an inch. So by the end of the year, I'm gonna have 26 inches added to my biceps.
by the end of next year, I'll have 40-inch arms. It'll be
That's
unstoppable.
then that's literally the Russian synthol kid.
Yeah, I'll have the biggest arms in the world. I'll be a villain in a superhero movie. You'd be like Bane, like the original Bane from like way back in the day, where he's a gigantic green monster
Yeah.
that Poison Ivy made, like just fucking 7.5 feet tall, 600 pounds of pure muscle. That'll be me next year after doing this 8 hour arm workout every single week.
And then Dwayne Johnson is doing the reverse of that to shrink in order to play Maui.
Yeah, he's just eating a lot of Starbucks lattes, um, Biscoff based oatmeal foods, uh, and then girl dinners, and that's what's gonna get him to Moana's size. Girl dinner.
So
Um,
silly. Another thing that I know we talked about Rich being very transparent with everything, but his bigger by the day series where he would literally
mhm.
record like his whole day. Like there was not a shred of anything hidden. Like it was
They're
like
like
from
45 minutes or
morning.
something, right?
Yeah, but it was everything in his day from what he ate to what he worked out to how much he slept,
Hmm.
what he did that day, and like it was everything. And so that's like the true definition of transparency.
Yeah, yeah, that was a pretty big series that he had going there, and it actually happened like right before he died. Like he recorded it right before he died. So like this one has 1 million views, for instance. This one was posted January 2016. So God, I can't fucking stand that they do that. I can't stand that YouTube does that. It just says 7 years ago. It doesn't. Anyways, it's like a little over a year before he died. He died August 2017. Um, how long the series went, I actually don't know. Do you know how long it went for? Is there a playlist? Maybe there's a playlist.
Um,
Yeah, there
well,
is. There is a
this
playlist.
this just says he's trying to put on 30 pounds as fast as possible. So however long that takes, which is subjective to the person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 30 pounds is a lot to put on. I wonder what he started at and where he ended. Let's see. So this is okay. So I think the last one they recorded was day 110, which was May 9th, 2016. So if you go from the start, which was day one, so May 9th, 2016 is when it ended. He started January 4th. So if that's true and he was going for 30 pounds, he would have achieved it in 4 months, which is, we're talking about 2 pounds a week roughly he'd be putting on
Yeah.
over that 4 months. I haven't watched the entire series or anything like that. Probably should at some point, like go through an episode every couple of days or something. Um, but yeah, he that was a big series that he had there for a while, and then he stopped doing it after that. But I wish he was still going. I wish we still had Bigger by the Day. We didn't realize what we had at the time. I wasn't really into the gym at the time. We were just graduating high school when he posted that last one. So if he could have kept going and I could have gotten into Rich prior to his death, I think it would have been a different story. But unfortunately, got into it too late. So
Yeah.
never got to experience the Rich Piana um, hype,
Well,
I
with
guess.
with how much his stuff has taken off, and I mean, his death doesn't really to me personally doesn't change the popularity of his videos. I think that the content is
Yeah,
just relevant now, like you mentioned. And can you imagine like a Rich Piana like signing at like a gym or something like that? And the amount of people that would like, how Noel Diesel does it in different locations when he travels. He just like he goes to a gym and is like on his social be like, I'm here. If you want to meet me, come hang out. Can you imagine how
yeah.
packed it would be if Rich did something like that?
I mean, I know Michael Hearn was pretty packed in that gym that day
Yeah,
because he
when
was
you went and
there.
saw him. Yeah.
Yeah, I just went there to say what's up, but I mean, it was pretty packed that day, so that's pretty wild. Um,
No, you
so
went you went there
how Rich
to
Piana would
prick
be now, I don't know.
you went there to prick Mike O'Hearn with a needle just so you can officially say that he's not natty.
Real quick drug test. Can you just
No, no, no. You,
when you go?
you you injected him with something.
Oh yeah, now he's not natty anymore. I was gonna say when he goes to the bathroom, I'll just like run into the bathroom and just like catch some urine, like "I gotcha, and then run out. Surprise urine test. That would be. I wonder what the results would be. But anyways, Rich talked about how he was more popular than a lot of the bodybuilders that were competing at the expos that he was at. I think the Olympia was one of them, and he said it's funny because like back in the day, bodybuilders got big off of like magazines and winning competitions, stuff like that. But then it became about social media, a lot of the aspect at least. So for him, he talked about how social media made him so big, and he would do these expos and these signings and shit, and people would go to the expos simply just to sign, to get his signature, to meet him and stuff like that. And he
Yeah.
said there's one time where he was in an elevator, and all he would say was that it was a big time bodybuilder, big time Olympia competitor. Like he's not talking about like some guy who's going to get like 25th or whatever, like last call out or anything. He's like, this is one of the top guys, like projected to win potentially. And he didn't know who he was. He is in the elevator, and the guy said, "Hey, Rich." He goes, "Well, what's up, man?" He goes, "I'm a big fan." He's like, "I appreciate everything that you're doing and all that, and just wanted to say thank you and whatnot." And he goes, "Oh, what's your name?" And the guy looked all like offended because like he's at the Olympia and this guy's like projected to win, and he didn't know who he was. And he's like,
Yeah.
"It's just the reality of it. It was just that the popularity just doesn't sit with bodybuilding, and you, at least in that aspect, where you need the social media following." So now, if he was still around, man, I can only imagine how big he would be now because the industry went in the direction of needing transparency. We need transparency now more than ever. And we didn't really need it back in 2016, 2017, where fitness culture wasn't as big as it is today. There's gyms like in Charlotte, I've talked about it, there's gyms popping up all the time. I think like 2, 3 a year at this point are popping up.
Yeah.
Around the Charlotte area, where 2016, 2017, it really wasn't a thing. Like it's even big in like high schools now and shit. Like it's like a social thing now where you hang out with your friends and you go with your friends and all that. It's no longer about going to the mall like it was when we were in high school. It wasn't about, going to the movies or whatever it is. It's now like going to the gym, going to train, shit like that. That wasn't a thing for us in high school, even though it wasn't too long ago. We graduated 7 years ago, roughly, almost actually, yeah, a little over 7 years ago. So, um, it's not as big as it's a lot bigger as it was. So, if we had him now, I think we'd be in a better place. And I just wish he was ahead of his time, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate to see that, but that's why we try and like that's like part of the motivation behind our video today to just, bring more light to all the stuff that he has and all the, information that he has available too. Like if you're in the gym world, you're for sure having at least one oops busted video in your in
Busted,
your for you page.
eating a cookie on the way to the gym.
This doesn't
A
count.
lot of
This is a snack.
This is a yummy snack. This doesn't count as he's eating a 500-calorie fucking protein cookie. Like that's so belittled the amount of calories in cookies. This doesn't count, dude. That's like a cheat meal. Like that's like um, a lot of people call. I don't know what you think of him. I haven't really watched any of his like true content, but Sam Solik. A lot of people call Sam Solik the new like Rich Piana, kind of like with the way he like does his videos and all of that, where he records like every aspect of his day.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I didn't recognize his name, but just looking at him now, I have so much on him, like in terms of what pops up on my page. And yeah, you're right. It's like
yeah,
everything's recorded, and he's such a humble dude too.
yeah. But the thing with
He's
Sam is,
he's also like
um,
21.
he's 21. He's on copious amounts of anabolics, so where he's going to kill himself. Um, And he also has Greg Doucette's made a video about it, how he has like one of the worst diets in bodybuilding, whatever. People talk about how
Hey
Greg's
guys,
just jealous,
it's
whatever.
Coach Greg.
With
Yeah.
his high voice.
Hey guys.
See, we all know his voice ain't like that. That's just for his videos. But he talks about how he has a really bad diet, blah, blah, blah. People talk about how Greg's just jealous because Sam has the physique that Greg could never achieve. It don't matter. The point is that Sam's on way too much gear. He's covered in acne. Um, his physique, although large, is not aesthetic because he doesn't have any dense, mature muscle yet. It's all superficial. It's all like he would lose it if he stopped taking anabolics and stopped training. It would all go away because he's 21. He's too young to hold on to it. I'm 25 and I'm still not old enough to really hold on to a lot of my muscle. So
Yeah.
muscle density, muscle maturity is not there yet. So he's just pushing it way too hard, way too soon. Anyways, the thing with Sam, he records a lot of what he does in a way kind of like Rich, but not so serious because it's just him doing it. So it's not like he has a cameraman. He doesn't have like an editor or anything like that. Um, but Sam also has like this like I don't know if you pick up on it. He almost has like this sad aura to him. Like he's got this like sad vibe. Like he's like very lonely. That's what he gives off to me. I was watching this video yesterday.
That's the pull down hat. Like it's always like,
Yeah,
covered up almost.
I mean, I wear a hat to the gym every day, but for me, it's not really necessarily the way he looks. It's more just how he carries himself. And he was talking about how he's like, why would I get in a car, go to the gym, or ride a bicycle to the gym? He's like, because the gym's only a few blocks away from me. He's like, so why would I do that? Did I just hear PS5 beep?
No, that was my air conditioner turning off.
Oh, I thought that was a PS5 beep.
Yeah, I'm gonna start gaming
Anyways,
in the background while we record.
yeah, I don't know. Anyways, he was talking about how like why would he ride his bike or drive his car to? He called it the rec center. I don't know what he meant. I don't know if he means like an actual recreation center or if he means the gym. Why would he do that and go do cardio, scan his key tag, walk in, do all that when he could just ride the bike at home? And just the way he was talking about it, the way he was saying things just
Yeah.
made it seem like he was very lonely and just very sad. I have no idea. It's just the way it seemed to me. And I went to the comments to see if anybody else picked it up, and somebody was like, "Damn, this dude just seems depressed." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at." But it could be also a lot of what he takes. He could be very lonely, but that's just Sam for you. And he's on the dangerous side of things because, I mean, I haven't watched any of his videos talking about steroid usage. If he has any, people say that he's on a ton, but he does talk about his diet, which is fucking wild. He drinks 2 liters of chocolate milk in the morning every day. That's his breakfast. Literally, that's his breakfast every single day. Is 2 liters. That's almost 2 gallons. That's that not quite, but almost 2 gallons of straight chocolate milk a day. We're talking like 1,500 to 2,000 calories of just straight chocolate milk that has no protein in it. I mean, he might get like a protein version of chocolate milk, but like it's not a substantial amount of protein, or at least healthy
It's
protein. None of it's
purely
healthy.
just for the calories.
Yeah, it's just straight up calories. That's how much weight he's trying to put on right now. It's just he just needs more and more calories, which I mean, I guess is one way to do it, chocolate milk, but that's also like a lot on your system. There's a lot better ways to get a lot of calories in your system. Um, but yeah, he just has a really bad diet. Rich, I don't think he had too bad of a diet. Obviously, he had to eat a shit ton. But I think from my understanding, from videos I've seen and all of that, he would eat clean. You know, he would eat oats and egg whites and chicken and beef and steak and all that. He would eat clean. And there's videos where he talks about you got to eat big to get big and how he'd be like, he's like, egg whites and oatmeal. He's like, breakfast every day. And he's like, I'm going to be honest, tastes like fucking shit. And he's like, just like shoveling it down. And he's like, this doesn't taste good. He's like, this is what my body needs. He's like, this is what I need to put on size. He's like, this does not taste good. I do not eat for taste. So Rich's diet in that sense is most likely healthier than someone like Sam's. But also he did have to take his age into account because he's mid 40s. Everything's going to start falling off at that point. So he had to kind of kick it up a notch as far as making sure his health was in a better place, which obviously did not ring true towards the end. As there were signs a few months prior to his death that he was just on copious amounts of recreational drugs, cocaine, heroin, stuff like that. He was known for using Adderall prior to training, which he talked about
as
is
like
great for
as like
focus.
a I was gonna say like a focusing agent.
Yeah, like a nootropic, basically.
Yeah.
But obviously, uh, someone for coming from someone myself who takes Adderall, I can tell you that it affects you in many different ways. Focus is one of them. For if you have something like ADD or ADHD, I'm not sure if Rich did. It just straight up helps you focus. That's all it is. It just calms your mind down. There's not a million things going on at once. But if you don't have it, it gives you. It's a stimulant. That's really what Adderall is. Is a very strong stimulant. That's why coffee calms me down versus actually giving me energy. So Adderall does the same thing. Where if you don't have ADD or ADHD, it gives you super jitters, and you could be awake for hours. And that's why college students will take Adderall to study and to pass classes, stuff like that. They'll take it at night so that they can study all the way through the night because they'll be awake the entire time and focused and just dialed in. Granted, there's going to be a crash. That's one of the side effects of Adderall when you first start taking it is that you're going to crash when it comes out of your system. But for Rich, he took it prior to workouts so that he'd stay focused and have energy and all of that. But the problem is with Adderall is it's also a not really like a blood thinner, but it doesn't promote uh, blood flow at all. So his pumps were always shit when he would train with the Adderall. So I think he'd also have to take his actual pre-workout as well on top of Adderall, which he would then take like 5-6 scoops of his. Um, I forget what it was at the time. Now they have different supplements, I think, but at the time it was like we're talking over a gram of caffeine worth of shit every time he would take his pre-workout, and probably 10+ grams of beta alanine alone. So he was taking a shit ton of pre-workout as well on top of the Adderall. So there's Adderall usage, there's heroin usage, I believe. There was cocaine, obviously. I mean, anybody who's as big as Rich Piana is probably going to be on cocaine. And then he there was supposed speculation of opiate usage. There were some clips that are actually quite disturbing of how he looked when he was towards the end of his life, which we didn't know at the time was the end of his life. But there's a video of his wife. I forget her name. Jensen is her last name. He never gave her his last name. It's just let's see.
Last name is trademarked. Can't take it.
Yeah, it's copyrighted. If you take my last name, you're getting sued. Yeah, it's Jansen. I forget. Yeah, I forget her name. I know her last name's Jansen. I don't remember her first name, but he. Uh, anyways, she was recording him. Doesn't matter what her name is. She was recording him, and they were in a hotel room. I saw this very recently. This was like last week. I saw this for the first time. He was like, if you've ever seen drug abuse, you'll know what it looks like the second you see it. He was like standing up straight, but he was like bobbing over and couldn't really stand up straight and was like, looked like he was completely out of it. And his like eyes rolling back and shit. And like, he was just trying to stand up straight. And she's talking about how like scared she is. She looks like he's gonna fucking die, and he's gonna have like a heart attack or something. And he's like, no, baby, it's okay, I'm fine. He's like, I'm not on anything. I'm fine. I'm fine. He's like, don't worry, I'm okay. And it just like it really showed like we didn't know at the time. It really showed the one of the steps towards the end. Because I mean, everybody speculated steroid use towards the end, but really there's no toxicology report, which Christoph and I talked about prior to recording today, but there was no toxicology report done, so we don't actually know what it really was that killed him. The autopsy was unconclusive.
Well,
So I think he,
the autopsy showed that his heart and liver were twice the size of a normal man, which is,
yes,
I
which,
mean, to be expected with
yeah,
massive bodybuilders. That kind of happens, but obviously that is detrimental to your internal system.
yeah, that's one of the biggest side effects to very long term um, steroid use is your heart enlarging because your liver. That's if you take a lot of orals, which I would assume that Rich was taking a lot of orals, drinking a lot probably, and all the drugs he was taking. Your liver will probably grow in size because of that. Your liver is just it doesn't really get too affected from. I mean, it does get affected from steroid use. Absolutely, there are supplements you could take that support liver. Actually, 5% Nutrition, Rich Piana's nutrition company, has a liver support agent that helps with steroid use. He talked about how he developed it because of the toll your liver could take on steroids, and that's because of orals, not necessarily injectables, but orals, which can be very, very hard on your system, especially something like anadrol. Anadrol is very, very hard on your liver. But besides the point is your heart's affected by all of it. Every single steroid your heart's affected by. And your heart is a muscle. That's what it does. It pumps. It's a muscle. We subconsciously, our brain pumps our heart for us. Imagine having to live our life where we had to go poo 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 every single we had to think about it. Imagine that. That would suck. Like you're training and you're like you're like 8 reps in and your heart's at a resting rate. And you're just like, oh shit. to
No,
like get
you're
caught back up.
you're doing a PR of some kind, like on a deadlift, and you're like, to truly send all of my energy to my legs and back, I'm gonna stop my heart.
One last giant pump straight to the back for lats. And then stop it and then lift, done. Oh, I'm about to die. That's
Yeah,
cardiac arrest for you. You just put yourself into cardiac arrest on purpose. But
for the
yeah, so
best
he,
pump possible.
yeah, just imagine that. That'd be great if we could focus our blood in one area. Just be like, I want a little
Well,
bit more towards my biceps, please.
well, there's that joke, that meme video. It's these guys who are not in the gym, but they make fun of pre-workout names, and it's like they go through like 20 of them, and the last one is like, this one's literally called "You Will Die" at the end of your workout. My
Yeah.
buddy took it, but right before he died, he said it was the best pump he ever had.
There's I think I've seen similar videos to that. It's like I think it was TED where they like named all the like stupid weed names.
Yep.
I think it was TED too. It's like that. It's like all these whack ass names. But yeah, so your heart's going to enlarge over time because it's a muscle. It's always working. It never stops unless you have a heart attack, which is what a heart attack is. You go into you die because your heart stops. But it enlarges over time and builds a plaque. So plaque is much. It's almost like think about plaque like on your teeth. It's just a buildup of bacteria, basically just like material stuff that builds up over time, which can be remedied. You can remove plaque from heart through surgery and also preventative care and all of that. But plaque is built up through anabolic usage as well as just your heart getting bigger. And I can only imagine how big Rich Piana's heart was with how long he was using steroids for. But yeah, I think he did go into cardiac arrest due to like as far as his death actually goes, but as far as what caused that, people think it's because of an opiate overdose, which can put you into cardiac arrest. From my understanding, the autopsy wasn't conclusive as to like exactly what killed him, but from my understanding, he had a cardiac arrest. Let me see, he was in a coma for a couple weeks, and
Well,
then
yeah. So my theory on that too is like, because that's a medically induced coma to try and help prevent the swelling that
correct,
was going on. But
yeah,
my I mean, I have a very in-depth understanding and knowledge of abuse and withdrawals and whatnot, and I'm willing to bet dimes on the dozen that it was the withdrawals that killed him, because
hmm
he was put into that coma to help counteract everything, but your body needs to go through the withdrawals. And if you go cold turkey, which is what a coma will do because you're not taking anything, your system
Mhm.
completely restarts. So I'm willing to bet it was that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention too, is that a lot of people don't realize with harder drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, if you're so deep into it, a withdrawal, like withdrawals and going cold turkey can kill you. That's why things like Suboxone exist, is so that you don't die from withdrawals. Um, it helps remedy the withdrawals a little bit. But yeah, that's a good point. That could be very well what could have happened. Um, he was in that coma for 2 weeks, and then he was pronounced dead. I think just because he was basically just brain dead at that point. Like there was no saving him. There was no going back. His brain was too swollen. So it was August 25th. Unfortunately, at the age of 46, which is really young. 46 is way too young. And it's sad because there's a video where somebody said he was talking about Dallas McCarver, and how Dallas McCarver, I think it was him who was talking about Dallas McCarver, how Dallas died at 25 or 26. And he goes, was it him? I don't know who he's talking about, but he said, man, he's like, even at that age, you're still so young. You're still just a pup. And like, that gets to me because people could say that about him, I'd be like, dude, 46 is way too young. You're still just a pup. Like you could just say that about any age. Like there's so much more life to live beyond 46.
Well,
I
I was
mean,
gonna
if,
say, like
mhm,
in the bodybuilding world too, like, you know, most guys like Olympia level retiring in their late 30s or something like that, and your mid to late 40s is when you just start getting into the, like, I'm not going to say like legends, but like that's when you start to actually have like a big following. Like think Ronnie, like so many people are like influenced by him now, and it's like
mhm,
he's alive and able to not relish in that fact, but he's able to appreciate that because of how influential he still is from his previous work. And you don't
yeah,
see that until 10, 20 years after you retire. It's like with any other major league athlete, like
mhm,
NFL players, they become analysts and whatnot, and you can like utilize and appreciate their mind after that point, which is what a lot of guys can do. And that we never, I mean, we only get his training stuff. We don't get any of his, like, looking back 20 years, what I would have done.
yeah. A good thing to mention actually that really ties to that is painters, artists. Most painters that have very large, very popular paintings didn't actually get big until after they died. Vincent van
Hmm.
Gogh, arguably the most popular painter of all time. Anybody will know who Vincent van Gogh is when you mention his name. He only sold one painting throughout his whole life. He was never a big painter. People actually didn't like his paintings back in the 1800s. There's a whole episode. If there's any episode of Doctor Who I think people should watch, it's the Vincent van Gogh episode. Phenomenal episode. Um, it's a little weird. It's Doctor Who, so like there's like a
Yeah.
alien thing going on. But anyways, they meet Vincent van Gogh, and the reality is that when he was alive, in the late 1800s, nobody wanted his paintings. He was the town drunk. He was the town weirdo. His paintings were terrible. People didn't like his art style. That's, terrible to them at the time. So nobody bought him, nothing like that. So they brought him to the future and showed him the Vincent van Gogh exhibit at like the London Art Museum or something like that. And that gave him the motivation to keep going. So like it's like in the story, Doctor Who is the reason why Vincent van Gogh painted all of his big paintings, but that's the reality for painters. Bodybuilders,
That's
a
a
lot of the time, that's
documentary. It's not fiction.
yeah, it's real with the TARDIS, the police box. But yeah, it's a very interesting story. So I think you should check it out. But I think that would be true with a lot of bodybuilders. Imagine if Rodney Coleman passed away shortly after competing, in the '08 Olympia, whatever his last one, or if that was '06, or I forget which one it was. We would only say, what if? What would it be like today if he was alive? Well, what wisdom could he bestow upon us? What information? I think the problem with Ronnie now is that he's so big in the bodybuilding world. He's less about giving information and just more about just being Ronnie Coleman. There's a video I saw
Yeah.
recently that really, to me, bugged me because it didn't really show much humility. And this guy goes, it was a question video on YouTube Short, and he goes, this guy goes, hey, hey, Ronnie, do you have a photo of you before bodybuilding and a photo of you like after bodybuilding, like during bodybuilding, like so we could see a comparison of like what you looked like as, you know, a kid or whatever, basically is what the guy was asking. And Ronnie goes, yeah, if you Google Ronnie Coleman before bodybuilding and then Ronnie Coleman after bodybuilding, you'll get all the photos you want. And it's like, that's not what we're asking. We're asking like for like a home photo. Like, do you have like a photo that you could show us that like is hard to find or something that like really shows what you look like? And like that really bothered me because he's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's basically what he's saying. Like, I'm not going to do that. You look it up. And it's like, he could have Googled that in 3 seconds without asking the question. It took longer to ask the
Yeah.
question than Google it. He wanted a different result. I think Rich Piana, a big thing with Rich Piana was that he was a very, very cool dude. He's very humble, very nice guy. And a lot of people who've met him will say that he was a great guy. And that's really one of the things I really want to be able to do one day is that, you know, if we have some sort of fan base or something one day, I just always keep your humility, you know, just, we're all just people, you know, at the end of the day. And I wouldn't want to meet someone and be disappointed. You know, that's why they say never meet your heroes. But Rich Piana was the one you really actually want to meet because he's such a cool dude. And there's this one comment somebody said that he met Rich randomly, and he said, "I'm a big fan. You know, you inspired me," stuff like that. And he said Rich sat down with him for a half hour and they just shot the shit, just like randomly.
Yeah.
Like he kind of interrupted his day wherever they were, and Rich just hung out for a half hour and chatted with them. And it's like that's the type of person that you want to influence others. You don't want. I mean, Rodney. Don't get me wrong. He might have just been in a mood or something like that. But you know, if Rodney's always like that, where he's always like, you know who I am, just do the work yourself. It's like that's not the type of person I want influencing people. You know, we'll commend him for his bodybuilding, but as a person, if he's like that all the time, that's just too much. But yeah, Rich is a very, very good guy, so I commend him for that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, with Ronnie too, like, Ronnie looks so much older than he actually is. Like, if you see the videos of him working out with Arnold, and Arnold is like, what, like 20 years older than him, something like that.
He's like late
And
70s, I think now or something, right?
yeah,
I forget how old
and
Arnie
Ronnie
is.
just looks like the same age as Arnold. Like,
Hmm.
that's part of it. But yeah, no, adding Rich's experience to my list of dream things, standing in that elevator and going, "Who are you?" Like,
Yeah,
that
who
that's now on the list of dreams.
or are you competing at this show today? Whatever the show's called, I forget what it's called.
No, no. Oh, who's gonna be your favorite on stage?
Who you
Imagine
rooting for?
asking that. Yeah, imagine asking that to like a guy who's locked in for like top 5.
Like Big Ramy with his death face and everything. Oh, who do you think's gonna win? I don't know who's gonna win. I don't know anybody on the stage. You'd be like, oh, it would be even funnier. It's like, oh, do you go to the gym at all? Or just like, do you
Are you
train at
natty?
all? Or yeah, just like, I mean, I could
How
tell
can I
you're
achieve?
natural.
How can I achieve your stuff naturally? Oh my god.
Just completely shit on them. And it's like that. It's like that. There's that meme where it's like when you walk into a new gym and they're like, "Have you been in the gym before?" And it was like basically just talking about like the audacity. Like, how dare you say that to me? That'd be such an insult. Like you walk into a gym, it's like you've been training for years and years and years, and you compete professionally. And they're just like, "Oh, you ever been in a gym before? You piece of shit. You son of a bitch. I'm leaving."
It's
That's
like
how
the Parks and Rec meme that where he's in the
I know
hardware
more
store and
than
he
you.
goes up to him, "I know more than you."
Yeah, exactly. Personal trainer comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, can I give you a tip? I know more than you." Alrighty, and walks away. um, but yeah, I mean, Ronnie put his body through so much shit. That's why he looks the way he does. I mean, Jay Cutler is a good example of what you could look like if you went the healthier route. Granted, Jay was also very hard on his body with the food. Um,
Yeah.
so, you know, he got fat in the off season, which wasn't good for you. But yeah, Ronnie is a different world. He did damage his body a lot. But over here doing a side chest, is that what you're doing?
Yeah,
You
just
look
gotta flex.
like boom. Yeah. but yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, I think Rich has a really good message, and I think a lot of people should watch some of his motivational stuff. And he talks about leaving the ego at the door, being humble. Everybody, one of his quotes, one of his quotes that I still live to, that I still look up to, that it helped me a lot getting through the mental side of swapping a prep to bulk. I think I talked about it. Was Rich saying, we're all in this shit together like a motherfucking family. And
Yep.
that's the reality, is we are all in this shit together. And at the end of the day, we all love the same thing. Really, no matter how you look at it, training is training. Besides CrossFit, that doesn't count, but training is training, and eating is eating. So we all have this sick desire to alter our bodies, and we're all in this shit together. It's, as much as I want to beat the guys I'm competing against, I also wish them the most success. And we all have our pros and cons, we got to work on. We all have our adversities. We got to persevere through, and our flaws we got to improve upon. But at the end of the day, everybody has that. Everybody has those things. So we got to work the best we can. And unfortunately, Rich, I think, just kind of succumbed to it. He succumbed to his flaws, and fed too much into potentially his drug abuse. And that's what ended up killing him. We lost him way too soon. Many, many years before we should have ever have lost him. If we still had him today, I think the world would be a better place, especially in fitness. But it is what it is. We lost him, and all we can do is just look back and watch videos of what he used to say and what he has said, and apply it to today's world. And like I said, he's ahead of his time. So everything he was saying in 2016, 2017 holds more true now than it did back in the day. He was just way ahead of his time.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll keep mentioning his name. You'll hear his name constantly
Oh, for
throughout this
sure.
podcast.
For sure. Oops. Busted.
This is just a snack. It doesn't count.
We'll keep quoting him. We'll constantly quote him. I'll watch those Bigger by the Day, and I'll just make obscure quotes from Bigger by the Day.
Yeah, just to test me, see if I've seen him.
Yeah. It'll be good. But anyways, we appreciate you guys listening. It was fun. Rich Piana is a great guy, so check out his information, or his YouTube, I mean, and look him up and all that. Check him out.
Hell yeah. All right, everybody.
But
We'll be seeing you guys next week.
see ya.
Peace.